a perfect way to put it. Charlie was a maestro, right? So he would play like, hey, Mr. President, here's why, and here's whatever. And then he'd go and he'd call me, and he'd call like Matt Gaetz and Tucker. He'd be like, hammer him, showing you like, the market that they don't like this, whatever. And he won. Like, in a room full of people who wanted him to go to war with Iran, Charlie Kirk made the difference. And I don't take Bibi Netanyahu as someone who would take that lightly, right? And everything he has done since Charlie has passed, trying to assert his legacy as he never blinked on Israel, it makes me uncomfortable, okay? Now, that's a feeling, and I've expressed that feeling, but I've also been meticulous about delivering a timeline of the facts, and it is very clear that some funny business started happening after the notorious event where you and Tucker spoke at, and they were enraged, and the donors were enraged. They took millions of dollars, and he said after that, he said no to Bibi Netanyahu. He said, no, I don't want your money. I don't want to take Turning Point to the next level. I've now recently, which I haven't presented yet, am learning how much money each person at Turning Point lost when Charlie said no to Bibi Netanyahu, because they were going to get a percentage of that. And that's interesting. Anybody investigating a crime knows, look at financial motives, right? Common sense, look at financial motives. And they're emotionally manipulating us like it's disrespectful to his legacy to pursue truth.
Hey, Mrs. Pretty Lady.
I'm not listening to them. You do one of two things when you go through something like that. I suffered a real trauma. I had to take 2 weeks off because I couldn't even process what was happening. And the way they were trying to get us to just forget about it. Dave, move on. His legacy is he loves Israel, it's over, and here's what you can do if you love Charlie, donate. Okay? No. I was behind Turning Point because Charlie was there. He's not there. I need to know what and who is running this organization now behind the scenes. And I'm not going to accept that, okay, well, Erica Kirk, yeah, on paper, she's a chairman and she's a CEO, but you don't learn how to be a chairman and a CEO overnight because your husband died, right? That's just a fact. I couldn't be a chairman and a CEO. And I've been in business. My husband does all that because it's not my natural interest. You have to actually like the mundane. You got to read the contracts and you got to understand the LLC structures, the contractors that you're bringing in for a company that's worth $100 million, Dave. No, okay? There's some snakes in the garden, and I'm here to cut the grass and figure out where they are.
All right, guys, let's take a moment and thank our sponsor for today's show.
Cut the grass. It's time to mow that grass down. I used to say that in the Mo 3 sector. It's a lot of snakes. It's time to mow the grass.
Charlie was, and that's natural. That's the way things work with really talented people. They make it look kind of easy. And I think also people don't understand how talented Charlie was, and that's natural. That's the way things work with really talented people. They make it look kind of easy, and then everybody else kind of doesn't really. But it's just to be people don't understand how good you have to be to go just do what he would do and hold court with all of these students and debate 1,000 different people and then go you got to be really good to do that. But then also people in a weird way go, Charlie did what all of us do, and then he ran this gigantic organization, which really moved the needle in a very powerful way. In fact, might be the reason why Donald Trump is president. If you go look at the polling data from 2024, the youth movement was a huge difference for Donald Trump. I'd have to double look at that, might have been the margin of victory. It was a big deal. And by the way, all those youth are now going back to the Democrats. At least that's what it looks like as of this week, which is an interesting thing.
Charlie did it for
the vote, so there's that.
There's a real interesting dynamic there that I that I do want to talk to you about a bit, where it seems like it's almost and in a way, I think this was something that was one of Charlie's big concerns. Okay, we'll get to this in a second, but it was I know. So essentially, right, everybody started kind of releasing messages, and Netanyahu is selectively reading from the letter. Bill Ackman's releasing text messages. You end up releasing some group chats, and you had that one show where you called on. You were like, "Hey, Dave, Tucker, whatever you guys got." And I was like, "Okay." So I looked through my text message with Charlie. I didn't know we became friends over this last year, but I didn't know him the way you knew him. We weren't close like that. But I was I wonder if there's and I didn't really have much, but I had that one text message that he did send me right after I debated Douglas Murray, where he was this Murray guy was really full of shit. And he goes, I actually agree with almost all of what you were saying there. And I did release that because I do think look, even if let's just say there is a thorough investigation. It gets done. There's cameras in the courtroom. We all get to see the evidence, please, and we really are at the end of this. Like 8 months from now, me and you are talking, and we're like, it was Tyler Robinson, and it was, like this is just the evidence does look like he was a lone left-wing nut. Well, okay, fine. It's still the fact is that when somebody young who's so beloved by millions of people gets killed in such a public, gruesome way, in such a high-profile political assassination, that people trying to hijack his legacy, like, that matters. And I'm sorry, like, if you're going to tell me that Charlie Kirk, there is no daylight between him and Ben Shapiro, or him and Josh Hammer, or him and Benjamin Netanyahu, let me tell you what none of those guys do. Is text me after my debate with Douglas Murray and go, I really agreed with most of what you said there. They don't say that. You're an evil enemy to them at that point. And that wasn't Charlie's attitude. Charlie's attitude was like, I get what you're saying, man. Let's talk about this more. Like, we should hammer this out. And so, at the very least, even if it's not something to do with the actual, like, crime, this is all still very relevant to get to the bottom of. Like, what was going on here? And then, of course...
By the way, you're speaking to his character, and that's what I wanted people to understand. For the people that were like, oh, Charlie was just doing whatever for Israel. Charlie was pro-Israel like I was pro-Israel because he actually believed it at that time. He was an authentic human being. It was not this like hardcore political idiot. He wasn't in a cult. And he was transformative. If he thought something and he was wrong, he would change his mind and he would tell you how he got there. And they knew that about him. They knew that he was not a cult member and that money was not going to be something that was going to make him go, okay, well, I'm just going to say the thing and look like a fool. What Charlie wanted more than anything else was to win, okay? In order to win, you have to be right. In order to win, you have to be right long term. And so Charlie would do the due diligence, he would study things, he would have the conversations, and he was landing up, he was just winding up on the other side of this thing, like I did, where it's like, hey, and that's what I said to him, I was like, when you start looking into this, you're feeling the pressure, you're gonna see something's very wrong. Like, we did not have this right, Charlie. We did not have this right. And because he had that humility to admit that he was wrong,
that right there is what I appreciate the most. That is where the respect for Charlie and Candance, as far as I am concerned, comes in. Because they was able to admit, whoa, something ain't right here. Whoa, they don't bait and switch. Maybe we didn't get this right. This is really, really wrong. We got to back up. We got to get out of this. This is not right. How did we get here? I can appreciate that. That is commendable. That is integrity. Acknowledging, yeah, I know everything we said. Yeah. Yeah, but we was wrong. And now we gotta go. And that's what's happening. And that's why they don't want you to listen to anything that they are saying, because they are taking ownership of an era. And as much verbiage, mouth, campaigning as they did for the wrong, they feel the need, or they felt, and she feels the need to do as much or more for the truth. And that's just it. So when people say it's spiritual warfare, right and wrong, it's not biblical. It's not everybody's supposed to back Israel. No, it's definitely spiritual warfare between good and evil, right and wrong. Salvation or damnation. The truth and the lie. That's it. Because what they was spinning was a lie. And how they were getting people to back them was a lie. It was deception. It was a wolves. It's wolves in sheep clothing, luring, luring to slaughter, luring to have you turn on your Christianity. That's why the Bible says, I'm telling you, that's what I kept hearing when all this first came out, and it was very confusing. I would hear, my sheep know my voice. Follow my voice. And what he was saying wasn't right. No, I'm not. No, I can't go along with that. This is a trap, and they are baiting. Don't take the bait. It's a lie. So I commend her. I actually commend Charlie at the point that he had a turning point to back up and back out. And he lost his life for truth. Don't spin now. Don't get mad at me. Start spinning now. It's that we don't want you to
And because he had that humility to admit that he was wrong, he no longer served their purpose, right?
right
That's what
there.
I realized. They will throw you out, and when you start looking into this, you're feeling the pressure, you're going to see something's very wrong. Like, we did not have this right, Charlie. We did not have this right. And because he had that humility to admit that he was wrong, he no longer served their purpose, right? That's what I realized. They will throw you out and coordinate behind the scenes, have all their sycophants go after you, take quotes out of context, start with the articles. He's flirting with anti-Semitism. He put on a hot dress and he saw anti-Semitism, whatever. Like that's kind of where they start, and that's like the threat of the articles that are about to drop. And Charlie said no, and so that is one of the things that makes me just so happy. And when I just pray. I just want him to know, you died with your soul intact. And something that brought me such peace was a donor at Turning Point USA who was very close with Charlie said to me in the immediate aftermath, a soul that is.
Are you researching dental implants?
There's a lot of dental offices that'll talk about
With your soul intact. And something that brought me such peace was a donor with your soul intact. And Charlie said no. And so that is one of the things that makes me just so happy. And when I just pray, I just want him to know, you died with your soul intact. And something that brought me such peace was a donor at Turning Point USA who's very close with Charlie said to me in the immediate aftermath, a soul that is in struggle will free itself, right? One way or the other, it will free itself. And I think for Charlie, his soul was starting to struggle. And to know that his last things that he said to them was no, F you, keep your money. He died a free man. And I think that that's really important for people to
Keep
know.
your money. When you can turn down money, baby.
I just can't imagine. To Josh Hammer, who supposedly was a close friend of Charlie Kirk's, and according to him was which is, I think, very weird to be saying right after he died. Even if this was true, I would find this very bizarre to be saying. If you, if I just, the first podcast, just knowing Charlie the way I knew him, if I, the first
I'm so
podcast,
sorry Dave Smith died. The last thing Dave Smith said to me, the last thing he said to me, we had this conversation, he was like, Candance, your feminism book was amazing. And I want to go to makehimasandwich.com and buy your feminism book. It was the last loving conversation we had. Really close to Dave.
By the way, and I liked your book on feminism, but if I died and then you did a show about it afterward, I'd find it kind of weird if that was
not one show. It was his first tweet after Charlie died. It was his first tweet. He did multiple shows about it.
Oh my God! And he almost, even the way he says it, I pointed this out on the show at one point, that every single interview he always says the horrific murder of my friend Charlie. it's just always in those words. It's always the horrific murder of my friend. It's like, why are you talking to me like you focus groups? That's like, I don't want the global language dictionary here. Be a human being. Talk about what, and I would just imagine, like, whatever it is, like me and you, we agree on all types of issues, and like, let's say, like, right before, like, God forbid something happened to you. The night before, you were texting with me, and you were like, I don't know, Dave. I mean, I know you've been saying we should end the Fed and have like a free market and money, but I'm really thinking we need a central bank and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, shoot, like Candace is like, diverting from the thing that we agree on or whatever. And then, like, God forbid you got killed, and they'd be like, oh, Candace was turning on the idea of Ron Pauly and, free market economics. I'd be like, well, she was exploring other ideas. It was a time when there was a lot of but to just lie, I would find that to be such a betrayal of my. I'd be like, yeah, it was a shame. I would have convinced her though. We were gonna argue about it, and I bet she would have come back to agreeing with me after. Like, just say something like that. Why, like, why? There's just something very profoundly wrong about lying
It's not just
about.
profoundly wrong. It is demonic. That's what I'm saying. Most of us have
Yeah.
something spiritually that would stop us from doing it. So we either don't want to talk about it at all because we're embarrassed, right? Like, I don't even want to
Right.
talk about the fact that we were fighting, which is fine. But to race out of the gate before anybody even cares about what your last conversation was, and to lie about his state of mind, to lie about, and knowing he was feeling so much pressure too. Like, he was like hurting over this. Like, you know what I mean? And you just lie. There is something spiritually wrong with Josh Hammer. So I don't even accept that, like, oh, like, it's disgusting, it's wrong. It's like, no, this is actually demonic. Okay, a regular human being can't do that. There's certain things you just go, oh, I'm sorry, that makes me really uncomfortable to do something like that. And you could see that. That's why Megyn Kelly, I didn't expect her to be, such a stalwart on this thing. And she was like, no, he was definitely going through something towards the end because he died, and that normal spiritual thing came on where Megyn was like, hey, these lies are actually I'm not okay with it, and I want to make sure the truth gets out there. And so it did present an opportunity for people to see that we're not being dramatic when we say that these people are evil. Like, that isn't evil to do that to your quote unquote friend, to lie about him because you want to protect your identity as a pro-Israel psychopath, which is kind of what he is. He's a pro-Israel psychopath. There's nothing other way to say it.
Yeah, pretty much. And yeah, I should go out of my way, as you said, that just to give some credit to Megyn Kelly, because she has been really solid on this. And obviously, like, there's I've always liked Megyn, and I've done her show a few times, and I've always liked her. There's always a lot of issues I disagree with her about, I'm sure, but just like having the basic principle of being like, no, I'm not going along with this like mob and saying I'm supposed to now throw my friends under the bus and pretend. It's this whole thing where we're supposed to pretend the people who were like everybody loved 5 minutes ago are now just like, possessed by evil almost. I thought it was so funny listening to Mark Levin and Lindsey Graham at this Genocide Fest 2025, where they're like, like if you were to hear them talk about it.
Can y'all hit refresh so it can go to members only and to kick you out since you don't want to hit the like button,
Nothing
please?
else was going on in the news with Israel, Candace. It's just
I've
that,
just
I
put
don't
it on
know,
members
so everybody
only.
just kinda,
So I need for y'all to hit refresh on your end so it will remove you from the live since you don't want to hit the like button. Can y'all hit refresh for me, please? So it will, there you go. Thank you.
I guess Qatar must have sent a lot of money around, and then everybody was just all that's what happened, is that, like, all these people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and all the people who have been household names now for many, many years, who is very successful at the top of the conservative, most popular, like, commentators, they all just sold out their soul for Qatari money, and just and their whole audience is possessed by it too, and nothing, and then they just leave out that part where, like, you guys committed a genocide in 4K and forced us to pay for it. Like, you don't think that had a little bit to do with this? You don't think that had something to do with where we're at today? And this like So one of the things, this is what I was getting at before, because Charlie was a movement guy. Charlie was a big tent guy. Charlie was a guy who wanted to find a way for us to not lose to like the crazy progressive leftists. And you've heard this brought up a lot by Mark Levin and by Ben Shapiro and people like that over this last week. We just had an election. The Democrats had a good night. You go, look, there's this infighting on the right. And so if we keep doing this, we're going to end up losing and AOC is going to be president or something like that. Now, of course, they just take it as a given that, like, I guess we're just supposed to shut up and they get their way. Which is, like, why is that the way it works? But at a certain point, I actually think in a sense, they're right about that one argument. And Charlie was right to, like, be concerned about this. But here's the thing, right? And you being number one, you and Tucker are the biggest two. You're the biggest two conservative people in the news. And like, then as Charlie noted, as Megyn Kelly's noted, nobody under 30 supports Israel anymore. Barely anyone under 40 supports Israel anymore. It is essentially my point is that you're right. If we fracture up this coalition, we'll end up losing to the Democrats. But the only way to overcome that and win is to obviously go with the wind. It's like saying in 2016, hey, there's a big divide between Donald Trump and the entire GOP establishment on immigration. They want open borders, and he wants to build a wall. And it's like, yes, but you've got him and 100% of the base against you. So the only option here is to go with his immigration policy, and then you could win the election. And I do think this all comes down to the war party and to Israel, which are kind of, one and the same in this country. And it's like, J.D. Vance, you can embrace that and lose, or you can come over here with the people and have a real shot of winning. What do you want to do?
And look, we have the Republican Party, we have a Democrat Party, and then we have the Knesset Party, and they've infiltrated both of the parties actually. And what's happening right now is left and right people are saying no to that.
They've infiltrated both the parties. I believe that.
The same in this country, and it's like, J.D. Vance, you can embrace that and lose, or you can come over here with the people and have a real shot of winning. What do you want to do?
And look, we have the Republican Party, we have a Democrat Party, and then we have the Knesset Party, and they've infiltrated both of the parties actually. And what's happening right now is left and right people are saying no to that. The reasons might be different, but it's a populist movement one way or the other.
Right.
And it's hilarious to me that they think after me watching Charlie Kirk get assassinated, them spitting in our face and telling us that it's raining about everything that happened here, the viciousness that they themselves directed toward me in the aftermath. I mean, if people are like, they tried to say that I didn't even know Charlie. I mean, they were so intent on making sure that not one drop of Candance being anti-Israel was a part of his legacy, that they just lied. They lied in a way that for the grief that I was going through, I'm not a crier. I mean, it was a lot. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. It was a lot for me to go through. And I look back and I'm like, wow, the nastiness of them doing this. And then like a couple of weeks later, being like, and now we demand you tell your audience to go vote for who we want them to vote for.
Yeah.
F you. F you. I am not doing anything. Okay, here's the way it works, and here's how common sense is, okay? You tell me I can do this job. I can build your house. I can do this. I hire you, okay? I get behind it. I say, okay, I hire you. Go do that job. You then don't do it. You look at me and you say, Epstein who? Okay? You're at the top of the FBI and you say, oh, these are the real messages. You're blocking people, as Kash Patel is, from looking into Tulsi's team and Joe Kent. You saw this playing out in the news. They won't even let them look into whether or not foreign people could have been involved in this. And then you're like, and now go get out more people to vote so that we stay in power. No, buddy, okay? In your famous words, you're fired, as far as I'm concerned, okay? And so I don't know what's around the corner, but I do know that my platform is not yours, okay? My platform belongs to the truth, left and right, okay? And so it was just incredible to me. They were like, and not even that, they were like, get out people and tell them to vote against Mamdani and to get behind interim. Okay, if you want to do that, that's your thing. But I'm telling you, I'm not doing anything because for me, political life stopped when Charlie Kirk was murdered and you wanted me to move on. I'm not moving on from it.
Yeah.
By the way, it wasn't because of Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson sitting down that
Not
got
moving
splintered.
on.
It got
For,
splintered when you
absolutely
said
not.
Epstein who? That's it. Literally for me
Oh, no
on my
question.
show, when I said, okay, what is this? Did the Loch Ness swamp monster come up and swallow the MAGA party? Actually, who is the Loch Ness monster? I think it's Israel. Okay, I think it's Israel,
That's such a
actually.
good point.
And if Trump suddenly joined the Never Trump party, which he did, right? Trump joined the Never Trump movement. That's what's happening right now. And now they're trying to tell us to join it.
He joined the
Good.
what?
I've always been against the Never Trumpers, and I'm going to
Never.
splintered. It got splintered when you said Epstein who. That's it. Literally for me
Oh, no
on my
question.
show, when I said, okay, what is this? Did the Loch Ness swamp monster come up and swallow the MAGA party? Actually, who is the Loch Ness monster? I think it's Israel. Okay, I think it's Israel,
That's such a
actually.
good point.
And if Trump suddenly joined the Never Trump party, which he did, right? Trump joined the Never Trump movement. That's what's happening right now. And now they're trying to tell us to join it. I'm good. I've always been against the Never Trumpers, and I'm going to stay that way even if Trump has joined them.
Yeah, well, that's such an important point, and so I just real quick before I get to that, I just do want to say, and I made this point last night. I was on my buddy Clint Russell's podcast, Liberty Lockdown. Oh, Clint Russell, by the way, criminally underrated. He's great. So it was me, him, and Ian Carroll, and we did.
Yeah, it was trending.
the
You
show.
guys were trending.
Yeah, well, it was a great show. I think I bowled over everyone. I talked too much on the show. I apologized for it afterward, and I was like, I bet I'm going to get shit in the comments for this, and I did today. So sorry about that, guys. It was late. I'd had a couple whiskeys. I was ranting a bit. But it was a great show, and you should go subscribe to Clint Russell's channel if you get a chance. But I said this to them.
Now, I hope the 31 people that are here
that show, and I
have
wanted to just
hit the
pitch
like
this
button.
while you're on my show. That look, I don't know everything about everyone.
30
here, but
now.
One thing I do know is over this last year, and me and you have become friends over the last couple of years. Me and Charlie became friends over this last year.
I see you.
Hanging out with both of you, and I remember talking to you because we don't talk about all this stuff. And I remember talking to you about Charlie years ago when we were hanging out, and you were just had nothing. You were like, Charlie's the greatest guy. Just had nothing but like, I love him.
Thank
to death. He's
you.
the greatest guy ever. And I talked to Charlie about you briefly when we were down at the student action summit, whatever the big event where me and Tucker and Megan were, and literally just all he had to say was how much he adored and loved you. Like, so the idea of people going like, there was this distance that had been growing between, like, okay, actually, I know both of them. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. That's just a fact. And I genuinely challenge anybody in Charlie's inner circle, tell me the wrong. I swear, even Josh Hammer wouldn't have the goddamn balls. Maybe he would, but he's lying. So that's one thing. But then on this other thing,
Thank you,
it's
Janet.
very interesting, and that you're absolutely right that it really was the Epstein thing. I said this at the time too, that people do not understand how profound what he's done here is to, and it may not even show up in a poll. His numbers did go down after that, but I'm not sure the polls can, because a lot of people who support Donald Trump, they supported him, they voted for him. If you ask them, they probably still say, hey, do you support Donald Trump? Yeah, I'm a Trump guy, I'm not a Democrat or something. But the energy and the loyalty and the enthusiasm
I don't know why I was doing that.
were just tremendously degraded by him. It's the whole political raison d'etre of Donald Trump was to drain the swamp. And this is the swampiest.
And they the swamp.
File ring connected to government and foreign intelligence.
Absolutely.
And I will say,
So he's always the opposite.
At that event.
Hold on. Whatever he is saying and he's trying to imply about others, like, that whatever he is saying and implying about them is really him. So draining the swamp was draining him, his partners, his homie, his political party, the Zionists, the people who sacrifice kids, traffic kids. That's the swamp. I mean, what do you think that is? I mean, what? And the ocean, what? That's the swamp. It's nasty, funky, dirty water. The water in the swamp look like the shit in your diaper. So yeah, it's draining you and your kind. Yeah, that's what that swamp is, and it's time. It's time to what they used to do over the black people's success. They would create a lake. Over the land. Yeah, it's time for God's people to let the water flow over y'all. Drown all that crap out. That's what needs to happen. That's what's happening. Yeah, the swamp. How dare you? How dare you?
Which it was a thing that, in a way, I think saved me, because Josh Hammer, which was somewhat crafty of him, because it's the best he's going to do, debating me. But so what he did for the whole opening of his statement was, like, I'm a me, so I get up there and I'm like, the neoconservatives were a marriage of the Israeli lobby and the military-industrial complex, and their clean break strategy is what we embarked on after 9/11, and this is the war in Iran. It's the culmination of the 7 countries in 5 years and all this shit. And then his whole opening statement is just every nasty thing I've ever said about Donald Trump. And just look, hey, Charlie Kirk, Turning Point audience, we love Trump. How about this guy? He don't love Trump. And which is a powerful way to win over an argument. I mean, it's a lame and dishonorable way to do it, but it is how politics works, You get these people like, well, what do you want to be? You want to be a leftist Kamala Harris supporter? You go, oh, no, we're not that. Okay, we'll be the other thing. And then I just went, yeah, I'm talking about the guy who just covered up the Epstein story. Sorry, I'm going to criticize that guy. And the whole crowd was back with me, because there was something about that moment. I had this experience recently where I did Steven Crowder's podcast, and that's all, we had this debate. All he tried to argue with was, you called for impeaching Donald Trump. You said Donald Trump's a war criminal. And then someone showed me the other day, go look through the YouTube comments. Everybody's like, everyone's like, nah, like, it's kind of like, look, the Trump loyalty thing is played out. They are public servants. They work for us. I'm loyal to God. Yeah, I'm loyal to God. I'm loyal to my wife. I'm loyal to my friends. I'm not loyal to an administration. Yeah. And to your point, it's like, this is not, and J.D. Vance or whoever it is not going to have that type of loyalty from a lot of us either. Like, you got to deliver on what we want. Like, and what we want is not bombing Iran and threatening